government is hopeful, and there are also reports that the current account deficit would be narrowed to about 1% of the GDP. All of that on the back of the fact that imports are down, but exports are also down. Although government says exports will pick up, we're very hopeful. But good news is, at least for current account deficit and people who are keeping an eye.
Correct. So two stories, I'll quickly sort of, in the interest of time, sum them up both clearly. Of course, the CAD, current account deficit, or India's trade deficit with the rest of the world narrowing is good news, technically speaking, because it shows that you're not importing in a far higher quantity than what you are exporting. So that deficit is now narrowing to about 10 billion US dollars, right, which is give or take about 1% of the GDP. Now, we've been used to seeing these numbers on current account deficit being 3%, 3.4%, 3.5%, that was an average. So, the current account deficit narrowing in absolute terms is good news to 1% of the GDP, $10 billion. Look at it sequentially, it was actually 0.2% of the GDP in the last quarter of the last financial year. So, sequentially, it's an increase, but look at it on a year-to-year basis. Q1 of last financial year, $18 billion, and that has now come down to about $10 billion. This is as per ratings agency India Ratings.
Okay.
Now, coming to the other fact about exports, those exports are going to be, of course, there's a different story playing out on exports, simply because, again, Commerce Minister, Industry Minister Piyush Goyal has gone on record and said that India's exports are likely to rise in the next few quarters. Again, I question on what basis is he sort of, making these statements, because data is not really emerging when it comes to merchandise exports.
Right.
We have an export surplus when it comes to services. But when you talk about merchandise exports, those numbers are not really adding up. So, I think very simply put, it's good to be hopeful, it's good to be bullish, but there has to be far more action on ground for the exports to take off.
Whether it will narrow to 1% in the first quarter, numbers of course will come out, in fact, in next 2 to 3 days.
That's right. 31st August, I think overall macro numbers should come out.
31st
and
of
that's
August.
where we'll see
and that is where we are going to have a clearer picture of what's going to happen.